Welcome back. You're still watching The Globe. Now, today, women working in the farming sector hosted a webinar aimed at addressing the living wage index based on research undertaken by Women on Project in 2020 under the theme Feminist Reparation. The project calls for the introduction of a wealth tax for the richest 1% of South Africans to finance farm women's demands for land, quality healthcare, subsidies, quality education and basic income grants. Now, reports claim to calculate a living wage for farm workers, but tend to be limited as they do not aim to change the industry status quo. A recent study by Women on Farms project takes a totally different approach. The World Food Programme places women farm workers' knowledge of family survival at the centre, envisioning what is needed for structural change that benefits the working poor on farms and elsewhere. The WFP research details fundamental change needed in the areas of land, healthcare and education, and also calls for a wealth tax to finance such change. Well, for more on this, we're now joined via Zoom by Carmen Louw, who's the co-director of Women on Farms. Thanks very much indeed for joining us, and welcome to the program.
Good evening, and thank you very much for inviting us.
Let's get some clarity, I think, about the role of women on farms. We tend to see images of them at the lower end of the scale, but I know that over time that, more and more efforts are being put in to get them higher and higher up in terms of the workings in agriculture. Where are we, and is this part of the struggle?
Well, it continues to be part of the struggle. Women, from the research that was conducted in 2020, we see that women on farms, livelihoods remains extremely precarious. They remain seasonal workers that are basically trapped in a cycle of indebtedness for basic survival. And although many new policies and laws come into place to protect workers, we find that every time that new policies and laws come aiming to protect farm workers, farm workers find themselves at the end of backlash from employers and farmers. So no, the condition hasn't really improved.
What is the biggest things that need to change for you?
Well, we see that seasonal farm workers work very limited time, sometimes only 3 months, which give them an annual income of less than 20,000 per annum. So we've tried to increase the minimum wage, and that is, as you've indicated earlier, it's not enough. A structural change is necessary. And hence, we're asking for a feminist approach to a living wage. And with that, we ask for a wealth tax to be introduced that can deal with these structural inequalities that's been there for centuries.
What will the tax do, actually? You get revenue from SARS, they'll have collected this wealth tax. How does it get distributed to better the state of women on farms?
Well, the proposal is that the wealth tax be used for public, quality public education, healthcare, a decent basic income grant, and also to acquire land. Now, in terms of the healthcare, it's not only the normal basic healthcare, but also research that are decided by women, such as the impact of pesticides on farm worker women. Currently, no detailed research exists to really document the impact of the pesticides on farm workers. Another proposal is that the money be used to do research on intergenerational violence, because violence that foremothers experienced was generationally transferred. And we see that the impact of that still on women today, besides the fact that they still suffer under the oppressive behavior of male farmers and partners.
Are women treated differently? Women on farms treated differently to their male counterparts?
Yes, although the law is applied equally, they're supposed to get equal pay for a similar job. But we see a male reservation of jobs. Male workers are mostly the permanent workers. They are the higher paying. They get the supervisors and the higher paying jobs on farms. Also technical training. We now, with the introduction of more mechanization and technology, young men are trained to do that, and they earn slightly higher, and it also increases their chances for permanent employment, whereas women do the lowest menial jobs, general work on farms.
The World Food Programme talks about placing women farm workers' knowledge of family survival at the centre of this issue. Tell us a little bit more about that knowledge.
Well, the research, the living wage research, did not only focus on rands and cents, how much rand is necessary. An international NGO found that 7,000 rand is necessary as is a decent living wage. But the research that we commissioned found that it's more than just money, because the experiences, the lived realities of women are incorporated, was included in the research, and to deal with the structural inequality, the lives, the daily struggles, and how to overcome that needs to be addressed by any approach trying to change the livelihoods of farm worker women.
What are the women on farms been telling you about their experiences? Research is one thing, and you sit and deliver papers, but when they articulate daily life, what seems to be the common cry?
Well, they struggle to put food on the table. That is a big thing, because they only work sometimes only 3 months a year. The off season, as we call it, the off season, there's no other income except maybe child support grant, and that must be used then to feed a whole family. One of the women in the webinar shared today that she often sends the children to school without food, and there is the school feeding scheme, but high school children are often embarrassed to stand in the queues. And then children are hungry the whole day and hope to find something at home when they come back home. That is one. Also, transport for school. Although schools are subsidized by government, the creches are not. And to get your child to a creche, you must pay. And women are saying that they often spend all of the child social grant towards taxi fare for the month. Where's the money for the food, for clothing, and for other necessities for children? And then also for doctors, why they are asking for decent health care. When they take off to go, often you must wait a day or return to clinics and hospitals multiple days because of the long queues. So they would like to go sometimes to private doctors, but they don't have the money. Also transport, just to get to towns, to access your social security, to apply for unemployment benefits. It's quite costly to come from far away farms to the nearest town, and women often hike and expose themselves to lots of sexual violence by doing that.
Land is the other big issue. It's a big issue generally in South Africa. Are you hoping that women will get some kind of preference when it comes to land distribution? And I'm also fearful about the patriarchy that we see in our country, where a woman may find it hard to own land even if she's been given title to it.
Yes, what currently exists in the country is that 80% of agricultural land are owned by white men, and they hold that land historically, and it's been passed on historically to them. So part of the wealth tax we articulate is that part of the wealth, the income generated from the wealth tax be used to transfer some of that land to women. And they've identified the land that must be earmarked first. That is unused commercial farmland, and where farmers like Johan Rupert, or landowners like Johan Rupert, who owns multiple farms, that some of that land be taken and be given to women in their own name, and women must be supported to control and to manage the land themselves. That will give them more independence and make them less vulnerable in relationships where power is unequal, especially patriarchal power dominates and is used to abuse and oppress women.
All right, so what's your message to government and those in authority?
Well, there's enough, the country has enough wealth, and the top 1% owns more than half of the country's wealth. To introduce the wealth tax to fairly distribute the wealth, and through that not only improve the livelihoods of farm women, but to redress centuries of historical inequality, to make this country, to improve the lives of people, especially women in this country.
Carmen Louw, it's been a pleasure talking to you, and we certainly hope that the plight of women on farms changes and changes quickly. Thanks so much indeed for bringing this to our attention. Thank you.
Thank you very much.